So Tennessee is set to play Kentucky on Saturday, I believe noon in basketball. I honestly, there wouldn't be that much to talk about. It would just be a great matchup, and all we could really do is predict what's going to happen. But I think it's almost noteworthy because Kentucky's in shambles right now, and obviously, I mean, Kentucky fans wouldn't admit it, but Kentucky is essentially our biggest rival in the basketball court. Um, no rivalry has been more competitive and more compelling, I think, in the entirety of the SEC in the last 5-6 years than Kentucky and Tennessee. Um, and Kentucky stinks out loud right now. They got blasted off the floor by Alabama last week, and then last night lost to South Carolina at home. A South Carolina team that Tennessee just beat by 43 at South Carolina. And Kentucky lost to them in Rupp Arena by 3. And Kentucky never led in that game and was down by double digits at different points. I mean, just the brutalest of brutal rock bottom kind of moments for Kentucky in that one. And so Tennessee is set to take them on. And we were texting last night about that. And of course, in classic battered ball syndrome form, Austin Stanley was like, this means that Kentucky's going to beat us on Saturday, doesn't it? I personally don't think so. I will be humble for a moment because Tennessee has reached low moments like Kentucky basketball is having right now. I've been there. It blows to reach moments like that. So I have a little bit of sympathy, but also I'm not gonna lie, it's a little funny. They've just been so haughty under Calipari. I can't have that much sympathy for you. You know, it is a little fun to see. I'm not gonna lie.
I think I get where Austin is coming from because I mean, not to bring it back to football, but it's kind of like that South Carolina game where Tennessee's playing so well, then you're playing an opponent that's not playing well at all, and everybody just assumes it'll be a blowout. So yeah, you got to be on edge in those games all the time because Kentucky obviously has really good talent. But what intrigues me most about that game is like the South Carolina losses where everybody is pretty much acknowledging that it's rock bottom for Kentucky. Like something's got to give. And sometimes in those moments, teams can come together. Coaches kind of have like a realization or like, okay, something's not working. We need to have a big team meeting. Everybody get everything off your chest, whatever. I mean, Oscar Shibwe,
Yeah, close enough.
that guy, yeah. He's telling them in the post game, telling reporters in the post game press conference on Tuesday night that he's imploring his teammates to play harder, basically to give more effort, to try to, he's even said to put in a walk on if you needed to. That I mean, that's pretty big words coming from an important player from an iconic program. That something like that's happening. I can't remember that ever happening at any of the other blue bloods really
So it's
in recent years at all. So how do they respond from that? That's what I'm kind of like, okay, is it going to be the same Kentucky team on Saturday?
yeah.
Is it going to be worse? Or are they going to pick themselves up off the floor and be like, hey guys, we got to get this together. We got to get on the same page. I don't know what to expect.
So in typical situations like this, I do get squirrely when you have to play a team after they've reached their lowest moment because sometimes it can be a big inspiration. Like they can
Mm-hmm.
get gumption after that and try to get it together. I mean, for one thing, it's in Thompson Bowling Arena. If it was in Rupp Arena, I probably would be pretty concerned, honestly. But I mean, Tennessee fans obviously are smelling blood in the water on this one. I think Thompson Bowling. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at the game on Saturday. It's going to be pretty rocking. Rocking. That sounds weird. It's going to be rocking. You have to say it that way, or else it sounds weird. Rock. It's going to be rocking. Sorry, little aside there.
Can't take the hard G off there.
Yeah. It's gonna be rocking on Saturday, and uh, you know that's what makes me feel better about the situation. You're gonna have a big crowd behind you, even if they are inspired. It's gonna be an extremely tough environment to win in. Um, Tennessee is playing excellent basketball right now. Even last night, they had an off first half, and then they got together and just steamrolled Vandy in the second half. And they're playing great basketball. But the thing that's interesting, I listened to KSR this morning because if you know me and you've listened to the show at length, anytime something devastating happens to Kentucky sports, the best listening experience in the world is Kentucky Sports Radio with Matt Jones. Because not only is he funny, but also everybody else that calls in just their despair is high comedy. But I listened to it this morning, and there is a funeral. It was like they were giving a eulogy to the Cal era. They, Matt Jones was basically saying like, it's so sad because I don't think that we will ever get back to the way that it used to be. And I was like, oh, that's that's it's getting dark up there in Lexington. And that's why I'm not feeling too off about this one. I think they're in a really bad spot. And he also said that the dynamic is extremely strange because Shibwe is so old and so senior and has gotten all of these big NIL deals and all this high preseason, all American preseason player of the year, blah, 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 blah. And then everybody else on that team is a young guy and like not in that same stratosphere, and that there's a big rift there, and he needs to be the team leader, but the rest of the team doesn't want him to be a team leader. And it's all of this stuff that's just pushing and pulling and all of these problems. And then he also said that it just seems like they don't respect Calipari or anything, and that's all falling apart. So I don't think that they will, even if they try, I don't think that they will have this moment this week where they're like, let's have a team meeting behind closed doors and we're going to get it together and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they might try that. I don't think that it's going to amount to a win in Thompson Bowling Arena for them. I mean, maybe they come out on fire and give Tennessee a really good game. I still think Tennessee's going to win ultimately. But it's just, I don't know. I don't want to dance on their grave too much. Obviously, Tennessee hasn't beaten them yet or anything like that. Now I will. If Tennessee beats them in this game, and especially in Rupp, I'll do all the dancing I want. But, until that comes, I just think it's interesting to talk about because they're just having such a sensational downfall right now. And they've been so flashy and so ridiculous with Calipari. And Tennessee just happens to be the next game on the schedule after they hit rock bottom. But I think Tennessee still ultimately wins. I don't know. Are you scarred enough as a Tennessee fan to think they're going to blow it?
No, I mean, I think they'll win, but I thought they'd beat South Carolina too. And as I was like, people should watch out. Weird things happen in Columbia. So it's another one of those games where, like I said, I think Tennessee wins. There's absolutely zero that we've seen this season that would, why should anybody pick Kentucky to win this game? There's no reason other than if you think they're going to come out and be galvanized and play better than they have all year. I'm just saying that's a possibility because of the situation. I don't expect that to happen. I still think Tennessee wins. I can't remember what was the deal with Schwebwe and why did he return for another season? Because he's like the Stetson Bennett of college football. I mean, of college basketball. He's
He's
the
like
same
30
age
years
as
old.
Luka Doncic. He's older than Zion Williamson. He was the National Player of the Year. He's just not. Is he a weird size where they don't? I don't remember exactly what that was and why he came back. That's not typical in college basketball,
And
especially with
see,
Kentucky players.
I don't know. I mean, it could just be. So first of all, he's not American. He's from Africa.
Yeah,
And he's to the point where he has a very heavy accent if you ever hear him talk. And I mean, I just wonder if he just, he didn't grow up totally influenced by like that NBA culture and
that's
all of that stuff where that's all he's thinking about. So many of those dudes that pass through Kentucky, it's just like it's the NBA and that's all I'm thinking about. I don't even really want to play for this team. It's just an avenue to get to the NBA. And you could really tell in some teams past, like that's what dudes had on their mind. And I think it's why Calipari has had such a hard time like recreating that national championship team he had. It's just not having all young guys that think about the NBA constantly is just not that great of a formula, even if the talent's all there. But it might be that. I don't know, because it seems so crazy that he would come back because everybody was like, oh, he's a first round pick, high pick, and then he's coming back to Kentucky. Of course, that made every Kentucky fan think they were for sure just walking into a national championship year this year. And lo and behold, this is what's happening. I don't know. I'm sure a diehard Kentucky fan could tell you that. But it's a weird situation. Tennessee in the same. I will say this to sort of wrap up the segment. Tennessee better not come in sleepwalking thinking anything. The talent is all still there for Kentucky if they
Yeah.
actually harness it. It's all 5-star dudes on that team, plus the preseason player of the year with Sheway. And so, whatever it is, come in focused, ready to play. I love the way Tennessee's playing right now, though. Just that, especially the second, obviously the Mississippi State and the South Carolina games were incredible, and then the second half of that Vandy game when they clamped down on defense and they just play that great fundamental basketball and they just beat you over the head with it. Man, it's beautiful. Vescovy was playing great. You saw Kamwa kind of took I don't want to say he took a step back. That's not the right framing, but he didn't have a great game against Vandy. And just other players stepped up. This team just has great depth and great leadership. And
I will say
beat Kentucky by 40, please. That's what I want.
Yeah, I will say this is not a good game for Kentucky to get back on track, because if you're going to beat Tennessee, it's going to have to be like they're not going to let you get into a rhythm. It's going to have to be a grinded out type win, kind of a defensive struggle. I mean, there's, to some extent, it's not a game where they're just going to like go out there and score 100 points and they're like, okay, we figured it out. We're back in the zone here. We've got the dynamic figured out. We're back on track. Like, I don't think that's going to happen against Tennessee. So because of the shape their team's in right now, I don't foresee them being a well-oiled machine enough to beat Tennessee and their defense.
No, maybe they play Tennessee really close and have a little bit of a resurgence there, and then by the time Tennessee plays them in Rupp later in the season, that's a concerning game. Who knows? I would be surprised. It just seems like everybody over there's checked out. Like they have just really phoned it in. It just feels like I said, I mean, listen to KSR, man. It was they even talked about the Tennessee game and they mentioned that Tennessee beat South Carolina by 43 or whatever. And he was like, who would pick Kentucky to win that game? He said what you just said. A Kentucky fan said that. So good luck to him. I hope Tennessee wins by 40. Some more, honestly, win by 100. Anything, man, I just love specifically sticking it to Kentucky in basketball is just my greatest joy as a sports fan and a fan of the University of Tennessee. So go ahead and do that. But I just thought it would be worth talking about just because of how bad things are going for Kentucky. There's that. That's our midweek segment. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Subscribe to A to Z Sports on YouTube and hit the notification bell and hit the like button and the whatever else, and A to Z Sports.com for the stuff we write. And I think that's it. We'll talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.